All right, thanks to everyone for showing up. It's a great crowd. We started this podcast for the Ringer Podcast Network in March of 2022 and wasn't sure if anyone would care or if there would be enough to talk about for a 3 times a week Hollywood business podcast. Turns out the pod started just as the industry was going completely crazy, and we have had nothing but news to talk about on the show. And one of the best parts, one of the smartest things we did from the very beginning was to ask this guy to come on the show every Monday morning. And real value add.
Well, thank you for asking me to do it. The show is a lot of fun, and it's a testament to what you built that there's a long line out the door of people wanting to listen to you.
Oh, there are. Are we turning people away?
I think we are turning people away.
I feel like Taylor Swift.
Oh, and I'm supposed to do this. I'm sure she will come up today. I'm supposed to do this as housekeeping. If you want to ask us any questions, there are QR codes. Matt and I might break the rules and just let people shout them, but we'll play that by ear at the end.
Screw the QR.
We're gonna tape like a normal episode for about half an hour, and then at the end we'll answer some questions.
All right, so we are going to do one of our stunt episodes today. We're going to buy and sell. We're going to do a Hollywood stock market, pick a couple of things or people or entities or companies that we want to buy and sell. I'll pick a couple, you pick a couple. First, though, we got to talk about the labor situation. Just a brief what the hell is going on. I saw Ted's comments from this morning. Everyone in town was pretty optimistic, I feel like, all week, which is another testament to the fact that nobody knows anything and everyone's talking to each other all day long. What are you hearing? Oh, I'm hearing that, yeah. And in the room, very different vibe. And I got wind of it yesterday afternoon that things were not going well. I had heard that the CEOs basically
stormed out.
And storming, I hate that word storming. I don't think Donna Langley has ever stormed in her life. But she very gently walked out of the room. And I feel like we're now going to go back to square one. And this is not going to be resolved before the end of the year.
I hope you're wrong. We did think that this was going to wrap up pretty quickly after the writer's strike. But there were early indications, I think, that the actors were going to need even more, right? Because the writers got this deal that they said was like the best deal that has ever been accomplished, right? And everyone was very excited about that.
Which is not true, but we'll let them have
a good deal.
Yes.
The actors who hadn't been talking to the studios for a couple of months then look at this and their leadership says, okay, well, we can't just get their deal. We need to get something even better than that. And you have studios who are like, we just bled out for the writers. You need even more. And that's where it feels like there's a disconnect. Because the biggest thing they're disagreeing about, as best I can tell, I think all the normal guild agreement stuff they'll figure out is the kind of extra payment, basically, right? Where the studios came to a deal with the writers for a performance-based bonus, which makes a lot of sense. You and I have both talked about this.
But unclear how many shows or movies that will end up applying to.
Sure, that's always been true in television.
Yes.
The actors want even more. They want basically a guarantee amount of money. It used to be based on streaming revenue. Now the studios say they want it based on subscribers. This is one of those things where the studios are saying this is never, ever going to happen. There were a lot of things in the writers' conversation that they said were never, ever going to happen.
There are a lot more actors as well. So any decision they make on profit sharing applies to a lot more people and potentially costs them a lot more money. The quote I saw from Ted was, they wanted a levy on top of our revenue or per subscriber. That just felt like a bridge too far. And the union is calling it bully tactics. They say it's a misrepresentation of overstating the cost by about 60%. Pretty different interpretation of what happened in the room there.
Not a great sign.
No.
Yeah, I think Ted said that even their performance-based structure would have been 4 to 5 times more money than the writers one, just because actors get more and there are more of them who get bonuses and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like the overall mood around town is get this done in a way that you feel it even with the actors that I have spoken to and their reps, like even more so than the writers. Like that was the fight, and then this was supposed to be wrapped up in a few weeks.
Yeah.
I don't know how much of a temperature there will be for another 3 months of this?
Well, because people want to get production going early next year. I think for the most part, the rest of this year, they can just write off. If you have a few weeks of reshoots you need to do or something, you can do that. And there's lots of prep that can be done for next year. But it seems like everyone wants to get back to work January 1st or January 5th, whatever it is.
Right. All right. Enough of that. Let's move on to our buys and sell. I'm going to give you the first opportunity here. Do you want to start with a stock you would buy or a stock you would sell? Let's be positive.
I'm going to start with a stock. Just so you know, I actually played a mini version of this game with Ari Emanuel last night.
Oh, you did? I was not here. I was enjoying the talents of Taylor Swift.
Which will be part of my buy.
Yeah.
We're doing we did a companies one where I asked him what he would buy and he was confused by the question at first. And he then gave
you have to spell it out.
Yeah. He then gave a lot of answers. But what was notable is in buy, he basically had big tech companies and Netflix. And in sell, he had something that I think you're going to sell today, so I won't repeat it, and Fox, which was, I think, principally because the WWE, they just didn't renew the rights. And he was mad about
it. I mean, great. I mean, what is Fox now?
My first buy, speaking of Taylor Swift, I'm gonna join the Travis Kelce train.
Oh, all right. So you're buying Travis Kelce as a media/entertainment personality. This is off the field, not whether they're going to win another Super Bowl.
He's already one of the best tight ends in the NFL. We'll see if he goes down as one of the best in NFL history. But I think he's got this podcast with his brother that was already getting some steam. He gets a lot of fuel on the fire from the Taylor Swift relationship. However, there's a world, I guess, in which that can end badly and the whole internet turns on him.
Sure.
But it is clear that he has ambition.
Not if. It will turn badly at some point. This will not end well, whether it's his doing or her. She always wins.
I think it's clear that he has ambitions in media and that even if he's a heel, heels are great. He is going to have a post-NFL media career.
Okay, and I agree with you, but what is the path for a guy like that? Charismatic, funny, whatever. Is he an actor? Is he Arnold Schwarzenegger? Is he John Cena? Or is he, Tony Gonzalez, great tight end turned commentator? Or is he Peyton Manning, where he does on air and then he creates a media company around himself to sell other shows to people? What is he?
I mean, you just gave 3 different paths, which is why I'm buying.
Yeah, he hired CA this summer. And I think that's their job to figure it out. Coincidentally, he hired CA right before this relationship started. Not just throwing that out there. But I don't know. I think he's Tony Gonzalez.
Matt is a cynic. He thinks this whole relationship is fabricated.
Not fabricated. Whatever. We don't have to get into this. This is not a gossip pod. But I think they're mutually beneficial things that are going on right now, including she's selling her movie. He wants to be a star. And it is one big, happy relationship out of that.
Okay, are you starting with a buy or a sell?
I am, on this subject, I am going to start with a buy. I'm going to buy music docs. And I know that there's been a lot of cynicism about how that market has peaked. I have talked to Bill Simmons about this. I've talked to many people in the industry who think that the days of the star being able to do the $30 million streaming documentary may not last forever. However, I think what's going on right now with the Taylor Swift and Beyonce thing with the theatrical window could be a thing that has been underutilized and could be exploited. Nobody is going to get to the level of Taylor Swift. Few people can get to the level of a Beyonce, if any. However, there is a lane here. These things cost $7 to $12 million about to produce, and Taylor's cost a little more. But if you can put that in theaters, go around the studio system, go directly to a company like AMC, put it in theaters globally, and make $30, $40, $50 million in theaters off this thing, that's a decent return on a doc. And then it serves basically as a giant marketing tool for the streaming release, which you can negotiate separately.
So this was one of my sells.
Oh, nice. All right. So give me your argument.
Well, a few. We've already seen a boom in music documentaries with streaming. And what I think people quickly realize is that there are a few artists that can meaningfully attract people to your streaming service, like Taylor, or like Beyonce at a slightly smaller scale. Most of them don't matter. And so, yes, it's great. They're not that expensive. But if they don't move the needle, is that really the best use of your capital? People will still do it.
What does move
But
the
hold
needle?
on.
Do any of these sports stocks move the needle? Beckham probably does.
Beckham does, but he's a rare case. But there's a huge difference between streaming and theaters. Because, yes, the movie might only cost $5 or $10 million to make. But if you're going to put it in theaters and really get people to see it, you got to market the hell out of it. And you have to spend money marketing. So that budget...
You don't, actually. That's the beauty of the superstar music doc.
I think that's
you got 350 million followers. I mean, Taylor has fewer followers than Selena Gomez. What would a Selena Gomez concert doc do in theaters? Probably not Taylor numbers. It's not the same kind of music and following. But my point is you now have this marketing channel outside of the traditional P&A spend. And if you can tap into that, you may not have to spend very much at all.
I think you still do, having had conversations with people about both Taylor and Beyonce. One of the reasons, not the only reason, that Beyonce's movie will not sell as well is because she is not going to market it as much.
Taylor is very good at marketing, but I think what do you think Beyonce was doing last night, showing up at the Taylor Swift premiere? I mean, that was, I think, a coordinated event to prevent the narrative that they are competing with each other, that they want everyone to know they are friends and both on the same page. But it's also pretty nice marketing that everyone knows that Beyonce has a movie coming on December 13th. She's not going to show up courtside at sporting events, but she will do marketing, I think.
Yeah. I don't know.
I just think it's another window. It's a window that people right now in this experiential economy where things you can do outside the home are going crazy, concerts and everything else. This is another thing, and if properly leveraged, it could be an additive window.
The part I like about it is I've always thought that movie theaters should use more alternative programming, because not a lot of people show up to a movie at 1 p.m. on a Thursday, or even on a weeknight. They just need to mix up what they're doing. And so I think there'll be more experiments around that. I'm just not sure it's going to be a ton of concert films.
All right. Give me a sell.
Am I sticking with the person, or I'll do the two people first. I'm going to sell Sam Levinson.
Oh, brutal. Sam Levinson, creator of Euphoria and the often ridiculed The Idol.
I admit that some of this is personal. I think that his work is titillation for titillation's sake.
All right, but our opinions
we're going to set that aside.
We are not critics.
The Idol was a complete disaster for HBO.
On every level. Embarrassing for anyone who touched it.
And I think it will hit him more than it will hit The Weeknd, because
even though he didn't start it, he was asked to come in and save it.
The Weeknd is a musician. This damages The Weeknd doing anything in film and TV going forward.
He is a definition of ice cold.
But from a music perspective, he's still huge.
Oh, yeah, huge music. So I'm just saying, in Hollywood, this will never happen again.
I got pitched a story about him, I think, in the last week or two, where someone wanted me to write about his impact on, like, the Colombian economy, because his tour was doing so well there. But I do think that it sticks a little bit to Sam Levinson, because the stuff that he's done outside of Euphoria, he also did a movie that I believe Netflix bought called Malcolm and Marie, came and went like that.
Yep.
He's tilting.
With Zendaya in it, right?
Yeah, he was on the precipice of being one of the big TV showrunners, your Ryan Murphy or Shonda Rhimes, and he is not headed there right now.
Yeah, he is expensive. He doesn't come in on time. It's a huge hit. Euphoria is a massive hit, but it might fall into the category of life's too short for HBO. And even on a new season of Euphoria, I mean, the closest they're talking about are, 2025? And now the cast is all big stars. They've got scheduling problems. How long Zendaya wants to stick around for this, I don't know. We'll see if he even gets another season there.
I'm going to get killed by Casey. You're up for a sell.
I'm up for a sell. All right, and with no disrespect to your guest this afternoon, Brian Lord, I'm going to sell agencies.
Woo! Why?
Because, listen, the CAA deal, it just sold TPG's interest, majority interest to the Francois Pinault holding company. The valuation is $7 billion for a talent agency. I think that's high. I'm not sure that is necessarily justified. And the market certainly doesn't think the equivalent of WME, its rival, is that valuable, because it's not valuing that company on the open market that way. And I just feel like we are headed into a contraction for all the reasons we talk about on this show. And the agencies are going to feel the brunt of that. There has been many beneficiaries of peak TV. Talent, obviously. People getting paid for stuff that would never have been made 5-10 years ago. But the agencies have been a huge beneficiary of this because they are in the volume business. They are, every single one of these massive buyouts, they take their cut. They are facing a contraction there. And the end of packaging fees. I mean, the history of talent agencies is basically a history of TV packaging fees, where if you don't know, you get a percentage of the license fee if you put elements of a show together to sell the show to a network. The Writers Guild didn't like that because they thought that it was disincentivizing the agents to actually advocate on their clients' behalf, and they were advocating on their own behalf. So a couple years ago, they got rid of that, and you think
Matt, come on.
I know, Bush League. You would think that now, a couple years later, that they're all aligned and everything's honky-dory, but the reality is that these agencies, I think, are missing those packaging fees in the long term. They're still commissioning now, and obviously the clients are now paying commissions to their agents that they didn't once have to pay. But I think long term, the end of packaging fees will hit these agencies.
There's no question that a contraction in the market is bad for everyone, right? It hits production companies, it hits talent representatives, it hits law firms, it hits restaurants. I guess I tend to believe that agencies, because they still, especially the big ones, like they control such valuable talent, and the ones like CAA, WME, and UTA have diversified enough.
They have.
That I feel
but the slowdown is hitting other areas.
The smaller ones, definitely it hits more if there's a real contraction.
Yeah. There will be consolidation more there. So we're already seeing it with the lower end places. Some will go away. And, sports, if the TV media ecosystem doesn't figure itself out, the contraction in television will ultimately hit the sports agencies as well, because it's going to hit the athletes. The only reason you get paid what you get paid in this country for playing professional sports is because there is a huge market for the TV rights. And if the RSNs are imploding and some of the deals no longer make sense, and the tech companies don't come in, didn't the YouTube guy say earlier that they're not interested in NBA?
No, he did the classic. I will neither confirm nor deny that we are interested, or I'm not even going to address it.
All right. So the NBA deals will be huge, but if these RSNs implode, the sports industry has to figure out where to make up that money. And if they can't, it's going to trickle down to the leagues, to the teams, and ultimately to the players, and then to their agents.
The sports one is a big question mark. It feels like at a certain point there has to be a plateau in that market, and I think there are for certain types of rights, but for the big ones, it just whoosh.
Yeah. All right. Next.
I'll do a buy. I'm gonna buy anime and by extension Japan.
You're buying Japan.
I'm buying Japan.
I didn't realize that was available for purchase.
I'm buying Japan as the next South Korea.
Okay.
I think that you look at the popularity of anime. You've had 3 of the 5 highest-grossing anime movies ever in the last few years. That includes, I think, this Demon Slayer movie, this movie Suzume. It's kind of tied in a little bit also with like the explosion in gaming culture. I think there's some overlap in the fandoms. In the niche streaming area, Crunchyroll is basically like the only niche streaming service, or one of the only ones that really works at scale. And Japan is twice the size of South Korea. It had a lot of the cultural roots. It was sort of the creative hub of the region for a long time, but it never cared as much about exporting elsewhere because it was big enough on its own. South Korea really focused on exporting. I think Japan has seen what South Korea is going to do and is now going to copy it.
What is the new Netflix show? Is that one?
One Piece is based on a popular anime title, but I believe, and people who can correct me, I believe it's not in its English language. It's a live-action English adaptation of a very popular anime.
By American creators.
That I don't know.
Okay.
But it's another example of the way in which I think anime has started to really permeate mainstream culture.
I mean, won't Netflix have a big role to play in this as well? I mean, Netflix was a big kind of bridge builder with the South Korean content. Not the only one, but a big one. And what is Netflix's numbers? I don't want to put you on the spot in Japan these days.
They don't release it, but I will say that Netflix struggled for the first many years. And Japan was the first market Netflix went to in Asia. I think they went there in 2015, but don't hold me to that. And then it might have been 2016. For like 3-4 years, they couldn't crack it. And then the last couple of years, it's really started to grow. I mean, I still think they're probably in the like 5 to 10 million range, but that's pretty good.
Do you think that anime success comes at the expense of the traditional American animation studios, which are challenged. We see that DreamWorks Animation is now outsourcing more of their content. You know, Pixar and Disney have had their issues over the past year. Frankly, the animated movies that are made in this country
even Netflix
cost too much.
I think that we are at a moment in culture where it seems like people are craving something just a little new or fresh. We kind of go through these cycles where like Pixar is not that exciting anymore, and maybe that'll come for Illumination, although they're doing just fine. And so, yeah, maybe anime to even American viewers it looks and feels different. Like, sure, there were people who watched the Miyazaki movies in the late 90s, but for the most part.
Yeah, but it's not, generally speaking, it's not been a mainstream thing. All right. I'm going to move on to my next buy. I'm buying bundles.
You love a bundle.
I love a good bundle. I am buying bundles because I think that it's going to come quicker than many people think it's going to come. There will be a great rebundling. We're already seeing the first stages of this charter negotiation with Disney, where they got Disney to include the ad tier of Disney Plus in some of the Spectrum packages. I think that's probably going to happen with the Max service as well. David Zaslav and JB Perrette have basically said they are open to that. I think these others, Paramount Plus and Peacock, the age of the standalone sale streaming service may be not coming to an end, but I think challenged when the consumer wants a bundle. They do. They're used to it. They don't want to pay as much as they're paying for cable, but they want one-stop, everything in one place. And eventually it will make sense for some of these others, like Netflix, to participate. It doesn't make sense now, but eventually it will.
Do you think that this rebundling, will it start with, I realize little things have already happened, but will you have streaming-only bundles where Netflix, Disney, Max, Peacock, and et cetera align? Or do you think it is through the traditional distributors, both pay TV and your Apples, Amazons, Rokus of the world?
Can I answer both? Because I do think that this effort by Apple and Amazon to act as the gatekeeper and to be the portal through which all of your streaming services come, I think that they are best positioned for that, and that will grow. And we see these what I said this on the show the other day, that what happened with Max, where it was taken off and then put back. They see the value there. And at some point, Amazon is very good at selling people things, and they will be very good at some point in selling people a bundle of these services if the other companies let them. I don't know whether it makes sense for Netflix now, but at some point it might, especially if they burn through the growth in subscribers through the password sharing and the ad tier and all that stuff, and they got to grow, and they're under tremendous pressure to grow. And if you have all of the Amazon customers that are potentially willing to become Netflix subscribers, it might be worth throwing them a little bit of your money to get that at some point.
Yeah.
But I don't think that precludes the traditional carriers from starting to bundle the traditional services with the streamers. I mean, they would love to do it. It's just the media companies that have not been willing to, or at least not on the prices. But it's going to get desperate pretty soon, if it already hasn't.
Yeah, maybe not for Netflix, but certainly
not for Netflix, but for everybody else, it's getting desperate, and there's no reason, in my view, that deals can't be made.
Okay, I have a question for you, because do we want to do one more each?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know what our time is like, but yeah.
We got 16 minutes.
Oh, dude, we're golden.
Okay.
By the way, people who don't know, we cut about 10 minutes out of every show because the number one thing people say to me when they say, I like your podcast, it's always, it's so short. So we keep it under a half hour. Today we go full 16.
It's good I had Ted speak already, because I'm going to sell, and this is a short-term sell, but I'm going to sell Netflix's ad business.
Oh. Is this just because of the recent reporting around how they're not meeting projections on ads, and they fired their head of ads after a year?
Here's the thing. When they initially announced it, I thought it was such a no-brainer that it would work. You have hundreds of millions of people who watch Netflix. Some of them are going to watch it with ads, and it will eventually, and they'll make money from it. And I do think that long-term, they'll figure it out. Netflix is good at figuring that stuff out, and they'll grow big enough that they'll have a lot of people. But the issue right now, and I think will be an issue unless they change their practice, is that unlike Disney and Amazon, they went with what I would say is actually a very customer-friendly approach. They said, You pay for this, but if you want to spend less money and watch ads, here you go. Makes a lot of sense. The problem is they're not growing that fast, and there weren't a lot of people who traded down. And so while I think it is effective from a business perspective, they just don't have a lot of scale in advertising because they only have a few million customers, and you cannot build a meaningful advertising business generating a lot of money unless you have a lot of viewers.
It's been 8 months. I mean, and all of these services are raising their price. And like I said on the show before, when the cost of everything is going up, you're more likely to look at this. The other thing is Netflix hasn't really been selling their customers on this. If they got more aggressive, and I think this is part of the frustration internally, is if they got more aggressive about selling both existing customers and new customers on the ad tier, I think more people would switch.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that they make more money on it should be a lightning bolt or a light bulb over their heads to push people into the ad tier. And we're going to see it. We don't know how much the price hike is going to be that's coming later this year or after the
$1 or $2.
You think it'll be $1 or $2?
I would be surprised if they went with like $3.
The closer they get to $20, the more appealing it gets for people to switch down.
And look, their argument would definitely be, it's early, give us time, we'll figure it out. And I buy into that. But at the moment, the other people, even though I think their approaches have been less friendly to their customers, have achieved scale faster.
Like Hulu.
Well, Hulu's been
How long did it take
Hulu's been
Hulu,
doing
though?
it forever, though.
Yeah. And Amazon has the advantage. Who has done it faster? I mean,
well, I don't know the numbers, but I would imagine that Disney has done it faster because they will do it faster because they're raising prices on their customers by crazy amounts.
But Disney has 70 or however long they've been in television years of selling advertising as an institutional base of knowledge. Netflix, as early as a year ago, they were still saying never, never, never.
Yeah, I hear you. I'll probably live to regret this one in like a year or two, but.
We will hold you on
I'm doing, in Wall Street, you can do a short that's like a temporary one. That's basically what I'm doing here. I'm not like selling 3 years down.
Okay, you're hedging is what
I'm
you're
hedging,
doing.
yeah.
Yes, all right. That's fine. I mean, I said on the show, I think 30% of Netflix's customers will be ad-supported in 5 years. I don't know that I think you disagree with that.
I think that's a little high, yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, my last sell, and this may seem obvious, but there's a news peg here. I'm selling Paramount Global. Like big time. Apologies for anyone who's in the room from that company. I don't understand. The stock is down to $11.50. The market cap is a little under $8 billion. They have had offers to buy assets from them. $3 billion for Showtime, $3 billion, three and change for BET. They have turned down offers. I don't understand why this company should be sold for parts, and it hasn't. And every single day, it gets less valuable.
Yeah, I mean, this is
sell. Sell.
Ari agrees with you. I agree with you. It's a no-brainer. Of the big media companies, setting us like AMC Networks is a little smaller, Lionsgate's a little smaller. Of the ones that have more heft, it's the most vulnerable. It's
and it has good assets.
Yeah,
that's the thing. Like they should be able to sell that movie studio. Just the real estate alone is valuable.
There was a point in time at which someone would have paid $10 billion, maybe just for the lot. But
the Chinese wanted to buy it for $10 billion.
I think the Chinese wanted to buy it. There was a point in time Netflix wanted to buy it. I almost asked Ted this morning, now that it's so cheap, would you consider just buying the whole thing and figuring out what to do with the TV networks you don't want? But
totally.
I didn't get there.
I mean, he coveted that lot.
Yeah.
Very much. I mean, I know he's probably happy with their building on
very close to home.
Yeah.
Beautiful lot. I would want it too.
By the way, I assume you had this event here because it's close to Netflix, so they could all come over here.
No.
No, Uncle Mike, you didn't say, Mr. Bloomberg, we'd like to have it close to Netflix.
Uncle Mike does not know who I am.
Okay, great. He might today. You got a nice big conference. All right. Yeah, I don't understand. I think that Sherry Redstone is living in a fairyland and thinks that she can save this, or just doesn't care and wants to milk it and be a player for as long as she can until eventually she will sell it and give her relatives the money that they pretty clearly desperately want from this company. How do you see this playing out with Paramount? How long can this go on?
It just depends on what she wants to do, right? They're going to have to sell to someone or merge with someone. They just don't have the scale, or the resources, unless they want to convert into being truly just shut down the streaming service, shut down the networks, and be a seller of content. But if they're going to do that, they're going to have to fire thousands of people.
Yeah.
So either you do that, or you merge with another company, which will unfortunately also result in a lot of people losing their jobs. But its days feel numbered.
Not going to fire Taylor Sheridan. We know that's the one employee who is safe.
Or the head of CBS Sports, which is one of the other things they have going for them.
That's true, and that CBS football deal goes for like 9 years, right?
Could become an albatross at some point, but
Yeah.
a lot of people watch the NFL.
True, or they sell it, or they do some deal where the NFL's made happy or
Yeah.
whatever. All right, those are our. Did you have one more?
I had a bunch more, but I feel like we should
open it
get
up
to the
for
questions.
a
We got a
couple
bunch here if you want to do it.
Oh, I can't read.
Do you want me to read them?
Yes, please.
Okay. I'll give you a couple of options. First one is about award season predictions. I'm going to say it's a little too early for that, but if you want to jump in.
Poor Things is very good. I like that one. Zone of Interest, probably going to be a big player. But what else? I mean, Oppenheimer, obviously. Barbie will get several nominations.
Yeah.
Probably Best
Oppenheimer
Picture.
could be a real contender.
Yeah, Oppenheimer, I think, will be. Nolan's going to sell the crap out of it. He has Kelly Bush, and they are like planning to do everything under the sun.
You love Kelly.
I do.
Another awards one. Do you think that there should be a new category in award shows for shows like The Bear, half-hour comedy dramas, also known as an FX comedy, which is not funny? Along the same line, do you think awarding men and women actors as different categories is outdated, or should it be updated?
Some of the awards bodies do non-gendered
I think the Indie Spirits do non-gender.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it raises a lot of questions because if you open it up to just doing 10 acting nominees without respect to gender, what happens if it's 8 men and 2 women? Like, then there would be outcry over that.
Yeah.
So I don't know how they would do that. Or maybe you let the person submit in whichever category they choose to submit in. And if they're non-binary, I don't know what they do. But yeah, I don't know the answer to that. On the what was the first one?
Should there be a separate
the
category?
categories make no sense. I mean, it should be half hour and hours, right? Even though that doesn't also make sense because episodes are however long you want. But most of the comedies that are nominated are not very funny. This last season, Barry, not funny.
Yeah.
Barry started as a comedy, is no longer.
Award shows I realize this will kill the economy of award shows, so they'll never do this, but they're all too long. So why wouldn't you just get rid of the drama versus comedy distinction and just say best TV show?
That will never happen.
I know.
If anything, they're going the other direction. Everybody wants a trophy. Everybody wants an award. They're going to create more categories.
Like my elementary school.
Yeah. So that will never happen. And plus, there's an entire economy around it. Like, if you got rid of that big category like that, it would eliminate tons of people campaigning. And the awards bodies complain about campaigning, but they secretly love it. They love the fact that people care and that these big stars are out shaking hands and throwing parties to try to win an Emmy or an Oscar. They love it. So, all right, what else?
I don't know that I'm going to skip that first. There's one about the dream cast for season 3 of The White Lotus, and I don't feel equipped to answer that.
I don't either. I would like them to bring back. I know I don't want to spoil it, but it would be funny if Jennifer Coolidge appeared in every season in some way.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Yeah.
What's happening with Marvel? The Daredevil news was crazy.
That is an interesting one. If you missed it, Marvel, it wasn't just that they are retooling a Daredevil show that was halfway shot before the strike. It's that Marvel, which may sound amazing, but Marvel is realizing that if you're going to have a TV division, you should probably have TV executives and TV showrunners and TV people running it and not just try to shoehorn the film people into those roles and fix it in post if it doesn't work out. And it's taken some turds like Secret Invasion and other bad shows for them to basically say, okay, enough is enough. We're going to hire some TV people to run this. And I think it's a good sign. I also think it's a sign that Disney is acknowledging that there is content quality weaknesses in both film and TV at Marvel, but especially on the TV side.
There's just too many of them.
Yeah, they stretched you thin.
Yeah, it was not to put it all on Chapek, but there was a moment in time where all these streaming services and all these media companies got obsessed with making more and more product. And
Yeah,
they
it was
started
that
to make-
infamous investor call.
Yeah, the second investor day
second
that they
investor
did.
call where like our jaws were all dropped, where it's like, and you're getting a Marvel show, and you're getting a Marvel show. It's like Oprah. And you're like, how in the world are all these shows going to exist in the same timeline and actually happen?
Well, and who can follow what's happening from one to the other? Fewer but better should be the Disney mantra, not the like, we're going to give you 8 Marvel shows a year and 4 movies and you'll lose track of what's what.
But then that runs up against the growth narrative for streaming,
Sure.
which most people believe you sacrifice if you turn off these fire hose of content.
Yeah.
I don't know that that's necessarily true, and I think we're going to start to see that tested over the next year or two.
Well, we can compare Netflix to others, because Netflix
Yeah.
will keep the fire hose.
They will, but it's becoming increasingly difficult to compare Netflix to anything. I really think that. I mean, shows are hits on Netflix that wouldn't be hits anywhere else. Netflix can get away with putting a garbage documentary on, and people will watch it. Where if you put the same garbage documentary on Peacock, nobody will watch it. It just takes so much more to break through on the other services than it does on Netflix.
They have the audience.
And, you know, there's the argument. I mean, Rich Greenfield has been saying for a while now that these services, even Disney, should put their best content on Netflix to start as a marketing tool for their ultimate home, which would be Disney Plus for these Marvel shows. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I think that you have to have exclusivity, especially over your signature properties. But it makes perfect sense that Max would put Dune on Netflix. The sequel's coming out next year. You want people to be aware of your movie. You make a little money on it. And is anyone canceling Max because Dune is not exclusive to Max? No.
I need to rewatch it because I found the first one unsatisfying.
Oh, really?
It felt like it was just teasing you for the full thing.
Yeah. It's like a preamble. But it makes me excited for this one. All right.
Do you want to hit Disney or Hello Sunshine?
Hello Sunshine. We haven't talked about that.
We'll do Disney last then. What are your thoughts on the recent news, aka my story, on Hello?
Always credit grab. Always the credit grab.
On
there.
Hello Sunshine not hitting its profit target.
That was a good story. Yeah. I mean, listen. Like, of course they didn't. I mean, first of all, the strike. So they are a company, Hello Sunshine, that depends on selling projects to streamers and studios, and there's been a strike, so they can't do that. But even without the strike, there was no way that this company was going to hit their numbers. I mean, I think that they have been frustrated by the deals that they have not been able to do. They have this war chest, and they've gone after a bunch
They
of...
being Candle.
Candle.
Yeah.
They've had a mandate to buy a bunch of companies, and yeah, they've succeeded. Hello Sunshine's a good company. Moonbug, great company with a real asset that, you know, they own, unlike Hello Sunshine. But they wanted to buy a bunch more as just a scale roll-up play, and they haven't been able to do it. It's hard to get deals done, especially in this turned market where money's more expensive and it's not as frothy as it was before. So I don't know. I think it's tough. Yeah. The question is whether this is a Candle problem or whether this is a problem for the entire ecosystem of those types of companies, whether it's Peter Chern's company or whether it's companies like MRC that, you know, raise money and produce their own things. Like, is it a problem for all of them or is it a problem for Candle?
Well, it depends on how they're run, because the timing for Candle was just miserable, where they bought these companies at the very end of kind of the zero interest rate period when valuations were super high because of all the optimism about streaming. And then within a year, streaming crashed, interest rates went up. And their issue is not so much that the businesses they bought are bad, it's that the valuations that they assign to them are way too high.
Yeah.
And
if you're Blackstone, that's what you care about.
Right, and debt and all this stuff. And so it could be an industry problem, but if you're Peter Chernin, also he hasn't gone out and spent all that money. He has money he needs to deploy, and that is a separate issue. Yep. I do want to get to this last one because I think it's one of your favorite subjects. Who do you think will be the next head of Disney?
Oh, God. I mean, I don't know. Like, where to begin? It's a whole episode. I mean, there's no clear answer. Nobody knows. I think that it's not going to be Kevin Mayer or Tom Staggs. I don't believe that.
Agreed.
I think that they have been brought in to consult in very specific capacity, and this narrative about, oh, maybe there's an understanding that Iger will buy their company and put them in charge. I don't think that's true. I think it really is consulting. I think it's pretty clear that nobody currently at the company is ready, and that may change over the next couple of years, especially if Iger elevates somebody to be that number 2 position that he was in before he took over the company. And then you start to look at outside candidates, and it's like, there are people out there who might be great. Iger probably doesn't think they are up to the apparently unique task of running Disney, but somebody's out there that can do it. It's impossible for me to believe that nobody has the skill set to run that company. I just don't believe that.
I agree. I have been guilty of running over time almost every time today, so I'm going to
zero.
effectively dodge answering that question and call it a wrap.
All right, thanks to everyone for coming. Thanks to our producer, Craig Horvath. Thanks to Bill Simmons for having the idea to do this podcast. And thanks to you guys for listening.